No tabletop RPG is complete unless it has something to bait the players into adventuring after. Acts of heroism is one, but in the end, finding a pile of gold and silver coins, or magically empowered amulets, armor, and swords, are what truly draws players to pick up that pencil and paper, roll up a character, and set them off to a world of exploration and adventure. The One Ring is no different in this respect, even encouraging it for a player who chooses a calling called Treasure Hunter. Where it does differ is how treasure is created for the players to find, how it's managed, and how it's found. Here, we take a look at the mechanics behind creating a treasure hoard. Starting on page 158 of the core rulebook, we find some detailed information on creating first your treasure hoard that you want to add to your campaign. Unlike other systems which borderlines into an accountant spreadsheet, differentiating between the type of coinage your characters is carrying, the value of gems and jewels, golden chalices, or necklaces, the One Ring rather takes all of those individual items and brings it down to one number, called the treasure point. Treasure points are an excellent way to remove that bookkeeping element seen in most tabletop role-playing games, thus giving players and the Loremaster more focus on the story and narrative being played out, not having to spend valuable playtime and worrying about and trying to figure out carrying a chest full of silver coins, plus a bag of jewels, gold plates, and that fancy-looking mirrored shield laying out on the corner. As explained earlier about load and fatigue in my other videos, each point of treasure carried equals 1 point of load. As you recall, each point of load gets added to fatigue to calculate the threshold for a character to become wary on all dice rolls. The amount of treasure points that can be carried by a player is based on their max endurance and whatever other items that have a load rating, like weapons, armor, and magical items. This limits how much treasure a character can create once they take it out of a castle ruin or a cave of a troll. Treasure hoards are any source of treasure that's encountered by the company as they adventure and explore the lands and the ancient ruins of Eriador. Coins, gems, crowns all fit into this category. Anything really that could be deemed valuable to a buyer back in Bree, the Shire, or Tharbat. Not all hoards are equal, of course, and the Loremaster must figure out how small or large a hoard of treasure is that the players find during an exploration of a ruined castle, a troll cave, or even a dragon's bed of precious gold. The hoard table on page 158 of the core rulebook lists what's called the hoard rating, 3 options being lesser, greater, and marvelous. Lesser is for those small piles found in a small castle, a goblin's cave, or a merchant's cart taken by a group of unsavory bandits. A greater hoard is something that you would find within an old dwarven ruin, or even a small mining operation at present, or some old ruin of men from a lost kingdom that has been lost to memory over the ages. Marvelous hoards are those last of the ratings, signaling something grand and ancient, like the vaults found within the oldest of dwarven kingdoms, an elven hold, and especially one hoarded and guarded over by an ancient drake. Each hoard has a separate treasure value and is calculated using the roll of a success dice accordingly. For a greater hoard, the Loremaster, or if they choose to let the company to do so, rolls 2 success dice to calculate how many points of treasure the hoard is value at, per player hero present. So, in our example, we roll 2 and get 2 and 7, getting a result of 9, meaning there's a total of 9 treasure points per player hero who have found this hoard. Again, remember this is an abstract number and could be in any form of a valuable item, like coins, forged bars of rods of iron, gems, jewelry, and so on. Next, the Loremaster rolls to see if there are magical treasure within the hoard. This time, instead of a success dice, we roll a feat die, as many times as indicated for the type of hoard rating. In our example, being a greater hoard, we would roll the feat die 4 times. Here, we get a 3, a 7, a 10, and a Gandalf ruin. Whenever a Gandalf ruin or an Eye of Sauron is rolled on the feat die, something has been found that is of a magical quality. We now reference the table found on page 159, the magical treasure table. Here, we roll 1 success die for each Gandalf or Eye of Sauron rolled. In our example, as we rolled 1 Gandalf, we would roll a success die to see what type of magical treasure has been rolled. There are 3 options. On a result of 1 to 3, a marvelous artifact would be found, it itself enchanted by a single blessing. In other words, a magical property. If a 4 or 5 is rolled, the item found would be wondrous, it itself being enchanted with 2 blessings. Rolling a 6, the company finds either a famous weapon or piece of armor, something of superior quality and make, and more often than not, enchanted with multiple blessings. The last column comes into play if the Loremasters had rolled an Eye of Sauron for magical treasure. If they did, whatever magical treasure was found would be tainted by the shadow and thus cursed, the taker of the item immediately suffering shadow greed points, and thus needing to make a shadow test to either negate or lessen the effect. Furthermore, as it's a curse item, the Loremaster will have to figure out what the curse is, and we'll cover that more later in another video. As a new Loremaster, you're probably asking yourself, how many hoards should I present to the players? As the game suggests such a frequency. Of course, if you're game and play it however the way you want and would like. Remember, however, that the feel of the tone of the One Ring should be similar to the source material. People of great wealth are few and far between, and more so with magical items of power and worth. On average, the company should find a maximum of 2 hoards during one adventuring phase. A lesser and a greater one, or even the event of finding a marvelous hoard, just one. A Loremaster is free to create some unique precious objects that they want to highlight some narrative in their story. Maybe it's a plot hook that could drive another exploration of a landmark, or it could be something that draws the attention of unsavory folk as they try and sell it at the markets of Tharbad. This is abstracted, of course, but nothing is stopping you from role-playing out such an encounter. In creating a specific precious object, there are a handful of rollable tables to help you flesh out what that exactly is. The value of this precious object could be as much as the total hoard itself, or just a point of treasure. It's up to the Loremaster what that is, taking into consideration what they want to bring out in regards to the overarching story for their campaign. The book highlights a couple of extraordinary objects from canon, like the Ring of Barahir, the Necklace of Girion, and of course the Arkenstone itself. Sky's the limit on this one for you as the Loremaster. 3 tables are presented, highlighting form, main material, and craftsmanship. Roll a success dice for each and mark it down. Taking what has resulted, think about who had created this object. Who was it gifted to, if it was? From where was it made? Was a war fought over it? Was it stolen? Was it mysteriously lost to time? And what would happen if word spread that it were found? Let your imagination wander. Once the treasure has been unearthed and found, the company will have to bring it back to one of their safe havens for safekeeping. Well, that takes space and effort, and there's only so much that each player hero can carry. As stated earlier, each point of treasure equals a point of load, and for marvelous artifacts, wondrous items, corresponds to 1 point of load itself. For famous weapons and armor, each is represented by those individual load ratings similar to normal weapons and armor. Player heroes can spend a little time to remove any remaining treasure and bury it near where they found it, or leave what they couldn't take. Advise them to mark it down on their maps, as you as Loremaster will choose not to remember it. If they forget where it is, that's on them, and if they want to go look for it, well, I guess that's another adventure on its own. The core rulebook suggests that you as Loremaster create a treasure index before you start your campaign, or shortly thereafter, to help you in providing your players with some detailed descriptions and backstories for your marvelous and wondrous items, famous weapons, and armors that are found by them. Some of these will be predestined or fated to be discovered by one particular player hero, so plan accordingly. It is highly recommended to do so, and it fits well into the tone and feel of the source material. Sting was meant to be found and used by Bilbo and afterwards Frodo. Gandalf was destined to have Glamdring. And well, what can be said then already said about Andúril, Flame of the West, and who's destined to wield that sword? The treasure index helps the Loremaster in providing the necessary information to the players when they find a magical item in a treasure hoard, as explained a little earlier. The list also helps the Loremaster keep tight control of what's introduced in the game. Nothing worse than having too many heroes wandering about Middle-earth wielding Beleriand forged blades and mithril suits of armor. This isn't D&D after all, and there are limits to maintain that grit and feel of Middle-earth. For predestined findings of famous weapons and armor, the index lets the Loremaster decide when to present it to a particular player to follow that wide-arching plot in the campaign. Finding any magical items is the rarest finds, even more so than finding a dragon's hoard. Finding a magical item should represent a major turning point in a campaign for the company as a whole and for the player who finds it and takes it. To compile a treasure index, the Loremaster includes as many marvelous artifacts as desired, while a specific list must be made to indicate precisely the number and nature of wondrous items, famous weapons and armor that the players have a chance to find. In general, 1 to 3 wondrous items and 1 to 3 famous weapons and armor per player hero of the company is usually the case. Sample indexes are available on the Free League website, as well as fillable treasure index PDFs for download. I'll link those in the description for easy finding. Creating marvelous artifacts and wondrous items, weapon and famous armor is covered now in the next video in the series. I hope you found this video helpful for you as Loremaster in creating your own list of famous weapons and armor. Share what you've made in the comments section or over on the Discord server or the Facebook groups for the One Ring RPG. As always, help grow and support the channel by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing, and by spreading the word about this great role-playing game by Free League Publishing. I'm Ryan of the North, and thank you for watching.